I didn't catch my wife cheating. I caught her trying to manage me like an obstacle. Not with a guilty confession, not with a shaky excuse, not even with a lie. With a calendar entry, clean, confident, and so casual it made my stomach turn. Quiet evening home. Please make yourself scarce. I need the place calm. Don't make this awkward. That was the entire message. No, can we talk? No, I'm sorry. No, I know this is unfair. Just logistics. I stared at the screen until the words stopped looking like English and started looking like a receipt, proof that something had been purchased, and I was the thing being traded. My name is Nathan Reed. I'm in my mid-30s, and I run building operations for a busy office complex. I'm the person tenants never think about until a faucet runs dry or the elevator makes a noise it shouldn't. My job is to keep systems invisible, quiet, reliable. At home, I had become the same kind of system. My wife Claire is a few years younger than me. She works in partnerships and branding. One of those jobs where the descriptions are shiny and the reality is long lunches, presentations, and being charming in rooms full of people who confuse confidence with competence. When I met her, she was dazzling. She spoke like life was a sprint, laughed like rules didn't apply, and had that rare ability to make a random Tuesday feel like the opening scene of a movie. I was drawn to that energy the way a tired person is drawn to sunlight. I was steadier. I planned. I fixed things. I kept my promises. I believed that if I built a strong foundation, love would be safe inside it. For a while, it was. Then the foundation became expected. And expectation, when it isn't paired with gratitude, turns into entitlement. People ask how it happens, how someone can go from being your partner to treating you like an appliance. The ugly answer is that it happens slowly. In 1,000 small moments, you forgive because you think forgiveness is what makes you a good spouse. It begins with the tiny dismissals. She'd answer questions with a sigh, like my curiosity was work. She'd make plans and inform me after because it's easier than discussing everything. She'd tease me in front of friends, then call me sensitive if I looked hurt. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself this was just adulthood. I told myself the best marriages weren't made of constant romance, but of consistency. I didn't notice that consistency, in our case, meant I consistently swallowed my discomfort. Claire also developed a habit, small at first, then constant, of speaking about me like I wasn't in the room. Nate will handle it. Nate doesn't care. Nate's low maintenance. Low maintenance. Like I was a piece of furniture that didn't need cleaning. I didn't like how it felt, but I didn't fight it. Because fighting it meant admitting there was something to fight, and I wasn't ready to call my marriage a battleground. Then a name started appearing in her stories. Miles. At first, he was just a mention. Miles said the pitch was brilliant. Miles thinks the client is impossible. Miles has this funny theory about people and their coffee orders. I didn't react. People talk about coworkers. I had coworkers I complained about too. But the way Claire said his name was different. Softer. Warmer. Like her mouth enjoyed forming the syllables. And then the compliments started. Miles says you're steady. Miles says you're dependable. Miles says it must be nice having a husband who doesn't get emotional. Steady, dependable, not emotional. She meant them as praise, but the words landed like labels on a box. Functional, safe, not particularly exciting. I asked once lightly, "Who is this Miles exactly?" She smiled without looking up from her phone. "Someone I collaborate with. Is he new?" "Don't start," she said, still smiling. But the smile had teeth. "He's a colleague. Why do you need to dissect everything?" I didn't. I backed off, because backing off was what I did. I was the guy who avoided conflict, the guy who thought calm was maturity. But calm can also be surrender. The months that followed felt like living with a person who was physically present and mentally somewhere else. Claire's body came home. Her attention didn't. She would sit beside me on the couch, her phone angled away, laughing at messages she didn't share. If I spoke, she would respond a beat too late, like she had to return from another place. We still had dinners. We still shared a bed. We still did the motions. But intimacy is more than proximity. And we were becoming strangers who shared a Wi-Fi password. The day the calendar entry appeared, I'd had a rough stretch at work. Nothing dramatic, just the usual cascade of small disasters that become big ones if you ignore them. By the time I left the building, my shoulders were tight and my brain felt like it had been sanded. I was craving something simple. A quiet meal, my own couch, my wife's presence. Not a performance, just the soft comfort of home. Instead, the invite popped up, bright and certain, like a neon sign pointing to my irrelevance. Please make yourself scarce. It wasn't the possibility of another man that made my throat close. It was the assumption that my place in my own home could be rescheduled. The message didn't sound like a confession. It sounded like a request to move a meeting. It sounded like she believed my existence was flexible. In my car, I sat still and listened to my own breathing. I expected rage. I expected heartbreak. What I felt was clarity. Because when someone stops hiding, it means they believe there's nothing to lose. Claire wasn't sneaking. She wasn't afraid. She didn't even respect me enough to lie well. She simply expected me to cooperate. I didn't drive straight home. I drove to a quiet parking lot behind a closed grocery store and called my friend Jonah. Jonah and I met years ago, back when I still thought my job was temporary and my marriage was a permanent achievement. Jonah is blunt in a way that used to annoy me and now feels like a gift. He went through a divorce that left him older, lighter, and allergic to nonsense. He answered, and I said, "I got a calendar invite telling me to stay out of my own apartment." There was a pause. Then, "Do you want to save it, or do you want to save yourself?" I held the steering wheel with both hands like it was the only solid thing in the world. I don't think there's anything left to save. "Then don't negotiate," Jonah said. "Don't explode. Don't announce. Just protect yourself. Get your documents. Move your money fairly. Talk to a lawyer. And don't let her rewrite the story. Rewrite the story." That part hit me harder than I expected. Because Claire was good at stories. She could turn anything into a narrative where she was the star and everyone else was a supporting character. She could frame a cruel comment as a joke, a selfish choice as self-care, a betrayal as complex feelings. If I didn't protect the facts, she would paint me as the villain. I ended the call and sat for another minute, feeling the weight of what I was about to do. Not because I was scared of leaving, because I was scared of returning. Returning meant pretending. Returning meant swallowing this and calling it a rough patch. Returning meant teaching her, once again, that she could push and I would bend. I didn't want to bend anymore. I made a list in my head. Not of revenge, of necessities. Identity documents, financial records, work equipment, sentimental items I couldn't replace. Anything that belonged to me before Claire. Anything that would become a hostage if I left it behind. Then I went to a small storage facility near my office, the kind tucked between a car wash and a warehouse. I rented a unit without drama. I paid. I got a lock. The clerk didn't ask questions, which I appreciated. After that, I went to the bank. Our finances were blended in a way that made sense when we were a team. A joint account for bills and savings, separate accounts for personal spending. I didn't want to empty anything. I wanted to be fair and safe. So I transferred half of the savings into my account, exactly half, and printed confirmation. No tricks, no gray area, just balance. I sat in the bank lobby afterward and felt something like nausea, not guilt, not fear, grief. Because a part of me still wanted Claire to text, "This is a mistake. Come home. I need you." But I already had her message, and it didn't say, "I need you." It said, "Be scarce." When I finally went home, the apartment looked the same as it always did. That was the surreal part. Betrayal doesn't change the lighting. It doesn't rearrange the furniture. It doesn't announce itself with thunder. It can sit quietly inside familiar walls. Claire wasn't there yet. I moved like someone inside a dream, calm and steady. I didn't slam drawers. I didn't curse. I didn't throw anything. I packed methodically. First, documents. Passports, the folder with tax papers, warranty receipts, the lease copies, the small safe box with personal items. Second, work and essentials. My laptop, chargers, toolkit, medicine, a week's worth of clothes. Third, the things that anchored me to myself. Books I'd owned for years, photos from before the marriage, gifts from my family, the watch my grandfather left me. I didn't touch Claire's things. I didn't want to fight over objects. I wanted a clean exit. While I packed, my phone buzzed with a message from her. Just a reminder about tonight. Please don't do that thing where you mope and make it heavy. I need calm. I read it once and felt my lips press together. That's what she thought my emotions were. Heavy. Something inconvenient. Something that interrupted her plans. I didn't reply. Instead, I carried my boxes to the storage unit in a few trips and left them there like I was storing a previous version of my life. Then I went to Jonah's place. He didn't ask for details when he opened the door. He just nodded, took one look at my face, and said, "Guest room's ready." That night, my phone lit up like a malfunctioning alarm. "Where are you? Are you being dramatic? Pick up. This is embarrassing. Answer me." I watched the notifications pile up with a strange calm. It wasn't satisfaction. It was confirmation. The panic wasn't about losing me. It was about losing control. Eventually, the messages shifted in tone. Anger. "You're acting like a child. Stop punishing me. You can't do this." Then bargaining. "Let's talk tomorrow. Come home and we'll work it out." Then guilt. "You're abandoning me. You're ruining our life." And finally, fear. "I'm alone here and it feels weird. Please just answer." I didn't answer, because every time I had answered in the past, it had turned into a debate where my pain became a problem for Claire to solve by invalidating it. I wasn't going to audition for compassion from someone who had scheduled my absence. The next day, I met with a lawyer. Her name was Priya Sharma. She was sharp, calm, and completely unimpressed by drama. She listened without interrupting, then asked questions that made me feel like I was finally standing on solid ground. Whose name is on the lease? Any shared debts? Any large purchases that could be disputed? Do you have written proof she asked you to leave? I showed her the calendar entry and the messages. Priya nodded. Good. Keep everything. Minimal contact. Let me handle communication. I swallowed. Do I have to go back? Only if it benefits you, she said. And if you do it properly, with witnesses and documentation. Don't give her a chance to spin this, rewrite the story. The same warning now from a professional. I left Priya's office feeling shaky but steadier. There's a difference between pain and chaos. Pain is inevitable. Chaos is optional. Claire tried to pull chaos back in. She called my mother. She messaged my sister. She sent a long email to my work address titled, "Please read this." In it, she wrote about how she felt unseen, how she was trying to find herself, how she never meant to hurt anyone. The language was polished, almost therapeutic, like she'd copied phrases from articles about emotional growth. What the email did not include was the calendar entry. What it did not include was her instruction to make myself scarce. I forwarded the email to Priya without comment. Priya replied with one line. Good documentation. Do not respond. A short time later, Priya sent Claire formal notice. That's when the mask slipped. Claire's texts became furious. So you're really doing this? You're trying to humiliate me. You're making me look bad. You're going to regret this. The word me appeared in almost every message. Not us, not you, not I'm sorry, just me. When it was time to retrieve the rest of my belongings, we did it the right way. I didn't sneak in. I didn't go alone. Jonah came with me, and Priya sent her paralegal Marisol, a woman who carried a clipboard like it was the law itself. Claire was home. She opened the door with puffy eyes and a trembling voice that sounded rehearsed. "Nate!" Thank God. I've been terrified. Then she saw Jonah and Marisol, and the performance wobbled. "Why are they here?" she demanded. Marisol raised the clipboard slightly. "We're here to collect Mr. Reed's personal property. This is a scheduled retrieval. Please cooperate." Claire turned to me, suddenly angry. "So this is what you're doing? Turning our marriage into a checklist?" I didn't step inside. I kept my voice low. "You turned my presence into a schedule." Her face tightened. We moved through the apartment carefully. Marisol read items aloud. I packed them. Jonah stood nearby, not as muscle, but as reality. Witnesses change behavior. They keep people honest. Claire followed us, commenting on everything. "That's mine. You're being petty. You're acting like a victim. You always do this. You go quiet, then you come back." She believed my silence was a phase, a tactic, a tantrum. She couldn't imagine it being final. In the kitchen, I noticed something missing. The small dish by the sink where I used to place my wedding ring. I didn't wear the ring anymore. I'd taken it off the night I left. I'd set it in that dish because it felt wrong to carry it with me, like bringing a ghost into a new room. Now the dish was empty. I looked at Claire. "Where's the ring?" Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. I put it somewhere safe. "Give it to me," I said. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than any confession could. Jonah's voice was calm. "Claire, don't." Claire's jaw tightened. She disappeared into the bedroom, and when she returned, she held the ring between two fingers, like it was evidence. She dropped it into my palm. It felt strange, like an object from a different life. I slipped it into my pocket without looking at it. At the door, once my boxes were stacked and the apartment looked oddly normal again. My things removed, but the space still decorated with the story Claire had chosen. She tried one last move. Her voice softened. Her shoulders slumped. Her eyes filled. "We can fix this," she whispered. "I'll do whatever you want. Therapy, boundaries, no more Miles. Please, Nate, please." For a brief moment, my body reacted before my brain did. Years of training. Years of being the one who repaired things. The instinct to soothe her, to reassure her, to make the tension go away. Then I remembered the invite, and the note, and the way she'd asked for calm so she could host someone else. I looked at her and spoke the truth as gently as I could. "You're not fighting for me," I said. "You're fighting for the stability I provided." The tears stopped immediately, like someone turned off a faucet. Her face hardened. "So you're really going to destroy everything?" I almost corrected her, almost said, "You did that, but I didn't." Correcting her wouldn't change anything. It would only pull me back into a debate she was desperate to win. Instead, I nodded once. "We're done." And I left. The separation unfolded in paperwork and silence. Priya handled communication. I followed her rules. No emotional texts, no late-night phone calls, no one last talk. Every time I thought about reaching out, I opened the screenshot of the calendar invite instead. It reminded me why talking would be pointless. Claire attempted to control the narrative with other people. She told mutual friends I was unstable. She hinted at emotional abuse. She suggested I abandoned her during a crisis. But the facts were simple and digital facts don't care about charisma. When someone asked me what happened, I didn't rant. I didn't smear her. I didn't post anything online. I showed the screenshot. Quiet evening. Please make yourself scarce. Most people didn't need more than that. And here's the thing about social circles. They don't like chaos. They'll tolerate it when it's entertaining, but they avoid it when it's exhausting. Claire's drama stopped being glamorous when it started costing people peace. The practical consequences also landed hard. Claire had never managed bills. She had opinions about aesthetics, not about budgets. When the systems I maintained quietly were no longer maintained, when the payments, schedules, and little routines weren't handled, things started to wobble. She called me once about a utilities issue. "I don't understand why it's not working," she said, voice sharp. "This never happens." I almost laughed, not out of cruelty, but because of the irony. Of course it never happened. I had prevented it. That was my invisible job at home. "I'm not the contact person anymore," I said. "Talk to the provider." "You're being spiteful," she snapped. "No," I said. "I'm being absent, like you requested." I hung up. After that, she stopped calling me directly. Priya received everything. Priya answered everything. Priya's calm professionalism made it impossible for Claire to turn this into a melodrama without looking ridiculous. In time, we reached an agreement. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't cinematic. It was adult. We divided shared funds fairly. We separated accounts. We signed papers that felt heavier than they looked. And then it was done. I moved into a smaller place, closer to downtown. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The first night there, the silence felt unfamiliar. Not lonely, just quiet, like a room after music stops. I expected grief to swallow me. Instead, I felt space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to exist without being managed. I started sleeping better. My jaw unclenched, my shoulders dropped. I didn't realize how tense I'd been until I wasn't tense anymore. Friends reappeared in my life like they'd been waiting behind a curtain. "Want to grab a drink? Want to watch the game? Want to hike this weekend?" I realized how often I'd said no because Claire didn't like crowds, didn't like noise, didn't like anything that didn't orbit her preferences. Now I said yes. Not to prove a point, but because I wanted to remember who I was before I became a human support beam. One day, in a painfully ordinary setting, I saw Claire again. Not at a dramatic cafe, not at some poetic location where fate would clap. At a home goods store. She was staring at a wall of light fixtures with a tired expression, holding a sample switch plate like it was a puzzle piece from the wrong box. She looked different. Not broken, not ruined, just less polished. Yes, like the high-gloss version of herself had been sanded down by reality. She noticed me and froze. For a moment, we both stood still. Then she forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "So, you look fine." I nodded. "I am." Her gaze flicked to my cart. Paint rollers, a set of shelves, boring adult items. Evidence of a life quietly being built. "Must be nice," she said, voice edged. "Starting over like nothing happened." I didn't react. I didn't take the bait. "I didn't start over like nothing happened," I said. "I started over because something happened." She opened her mouth, then closed it. The urge to argue fought with the reality that arguing wouldn't change the facts. Finally, she said, quieter, "You really didn't come back." "No," I said. "I didn't." Her eyes glistened for a second, and for the first time in a long time, she looked genuinely confused, like she couldn't understand how the world kept moving when she didn't get her way. She looked down at the switch plate in her hand. "I never thought you'd actually leave." There it was. Not remorse. Not love. Surprise. She hadn't believed I was capable of choosing myself. I didn't hate her in that moment. Hate takes energy, and I wasn't interested in spending any more energy on Claire. "I hope you figure things out," I said, not as a blessing, not as an insult, just as a clean ending. She nodded slowly, then turned back to the fixtures as if they were suddenly very important. I walked away. Later at home, I opened the hidden folder on my phone and looked at the screenshot of that calendar invite again. I kept it for one reason. Not to replay the hurt. To remember the lesson. Self-respect isn't loud. It doesn't always look like fireworks or revenge. Most of the time, it looks boring. It looks like paperwork. It looks like boundaries. It looks like a man quietly packing boxes without breaking anything. It looks like refusing to negotiate your place in your own home. Because the moment someone asks you to make yourself scarce, they've already told you exactly what you are to them. And the only correct answer, at that point, is to stop being scarce and start being free.